Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, and it is, I believe, January 24th, 2024. It's a 24-24 day. 24 and 44 are 24 and 24 is 48. 4 and 8 is 12. 1 and 2 is 3. There. It's my mind. It always does a lot of math. I'm a mather. Oh, anyway. Uh-oh. Just got a message from Kathy. Kathy's not going to be with us. She's got a 7 a.m. call. That's what happens when you have promotions. You get promotions, and all of a sudden, you can't be a part of our group. We'll miss you today, Kathy, and we'll see you again soon. All right. Good morning, Miss Marie. Good morning, Kelly. Let's wish Marie best of luck today. She's got a job interview. And so I wrote a little response on there. Best of luck, Marie. And don't forget to invite him to go with you. And that's not only for Marie, but especially in the days we live in. Isn't that something that we have to continue to do in our lives? Is never forget. Oh, Marcia's here. Good morning, Miss Marcia. Um, we must never forget, and there's Bible Blues Brother Scott. We must never forget, and there's Tommy, and of course it's Wednesday, so there's Miss Jackie too. And the house is filling up quick today. Jackie, you've missed so much since you've been gone. Oh, so much going on. And there's brother Dave, cousin Dave. He's cousin in this world, brother in God's world. So everybody's showing up today. A lot has gone on lately. Katie, of course, she was in an accident. Her car, we haven't gotten the official word yet, but it probably is going to be total. It's over $11,000 of damage. We've got the great news of the other person is accepting, and the other person's insurance company, they're accepting liability. So basically, that's always good to know. You don't like the fact that your car's damaged, your vehicle's damaged, and the one son might have a slight concussion. And Katie did get herself checked out, nothing major, but I told her, and her husband tried to tell her, and I am one that doesn't like going to the doctor. I'm not big for doctors. That in a case like this, I said there's always exceptions to every rule. In this case, in case something were to come up down the road, because sometimes you may not feel too bad in the moment, but all of a sudden something crops in. Because a lot of times you're on adrenaline when you're in an accident. And so you're more concerned about, your vehicle, your kids, everything else, and you're not really thinking about yourself necessarily. So yeah, Katie's vehicle's out of commission. They were gonna get her set up with a rental van, and so she should be up and running again. I think it was gonna be today, maybe. So Marie is working on a job interview today. Best of luck to Marie. Let's hope she gets the job. And I told her, like I started commenting, and then I got distracted. Do not forget to take him with you. And that's a good word for each one of us before we're leaving the door, whether we are going to a job interview like Marie is, or, whatever we may be doing. We must always make sure that we're inviting God into our decisions, into our life, into our travels. Especially if you're in the Midwest right now, it's kind of rough weather out there. The snow's starting to melt. Sometimes when the snow starts to melt, it gets kind of slushy, can get a little bit cooler and get kind of icy. I can remember years ago, I slid off going down Highway 65, slid off the road, was not in faith then. And all I remember in that moment is saying, oh my God, I had lost control of the car. and the car was going off-road, down a huge embankment, a fence coming up ahead. And it was like my car went down like it was a toboggan. I've told the story before, so I won't go into great detail. My car just went down the embankment like it was a toboggan, didn't roll or anything, came right to a stop right before the fence line. No damage to the car. Incredible. And I wasn't walking in faith then. But in that moment I had the it was a reflex. Oh my God. And so we must make sure that we're inviting him into our travels, into our lives, into our decisions. Because if we call on him, he will be there. That's a promise. That's not a promise I'm making. That's a promise he's making. And not only will he be with us in our decision making and in our travels in these days, but of course we know what awaits up ahead and the excitement of coming face to face with him one day. All right, let's see. Oh, by the way, it was 4:11 today. Oh, Rusty. And then so I'm now getting good at coming downstairs at 4:15 in the morning and pouring him his gravy. Then I had to put out a little treat for him because he had eaten all his treat. And then I come over here and I sleep in the chair for a couple hours. What a life I live. Oh, by the way, before I get into messages and such, there was a primary last night I totally forgot about. On the Republican side, Donald Trump won. He won the state of New Hampshire. He won over Nikki Haley. I don't know if I talked about it. Ron DeSantis, he pulled out a few days ago, put his support behind Trump. Didn't see a pathway. Him and his wife, they probably prayerfully saw that there was no pathway, so they have endorsed Trump. What's really interesting about New Hampshire is New Hampshire is an open primary. So it doesn't matter what party you are. You can go ahead and vote where you want to vote. So what happened last night is a lot of independents and Democrats, yes, I said Democrats were voting in the Republican primary. And guess who they were voting for? They were trying to get it so that Donald Trump wouldn't do well. And he still did well. Even having Democrats and independents coming over and voting for Nikki Haley didn't work. He still pulled off, I don't know, I think it was probably a double-digit victory. What I thought was really interesting, and I'm going to mention this very quickly because it just kind of brought humor, and sometimes we try to bring humor into this broadcast, is there are so many more people that voted in the Republican primary than voted in the Democratic primary. Of course, Joe Biden won on the Democratic side. And then it's just kind of interesting because they'll show, if you go in and look it up, they'll show you who other people that received votes. And so there's all kinds of people. Basically, let me see here. Get out of this. People that received just a few votes. Like there was a person called President Boddy. President Boddy, Boddie. I didn't look that person up. President Boddy received 38 votes in New Hampshire. I don't even know who President Boddy is. And then there's another one, Vermin Supreme. I don't know if you've ever heard of Vermin Supreme. He's run in several presidential elections. He got 288 votes. He got almost a percent. He got a little over 0.5% of votes. But the one that really caught my eye, and I found myself looking this person up. It was Paperboy Love Prince. Have you ever heard of Paperboy Love Prince? I hadn't either. I'm like, who in the world is Paperboy Love Prince? He received 106 votes. So I don't know if you can see this. There is Paperboy Love Prince. I looked him up last night. 106 people voted for this person in New Hampshire to be our next president of the United States. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about Prince, Paperboy. He is a non-binary and prefers the pronouns they, them over the neo-pronouns God, goddess. He's they dress as royalty to draw attention to to how politicians can hold power for longer than kings or queens. In an interview with Fashion Magazine, Prince explained how freedom in fashion encourages freedom in thinking and welcoming of diversity. They, which is Prince, he often wears a Game Boy Advance SP or Game Boy Color around their neck. Because of course he's a they them. So show you that again. So there's his Game Boy. He's wearing his Game Boy around his neck. Apparently 108 people in New Hampshire thought he should be our next president. But then you look at what we got for president now. We've got Mr. Magoo. I don't know. If you don't laugh, you're brought to tears and cry. In Super Bowl news, has anyone else seen the Super Bowl conspiracy theories? Yes, matter of fact, I did. There was a post, I can't remember where it was at, that basically was announcing the Super Bowl entertainment during the upcoming Super Bowl, which is going to feature the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. So apparently, they already know who's going to be in the Super Bowl. They figured if they're announcing the entertainment for the Super Bowl, they better announce the teams that are going to be at the Super Bowl. And so I don't remember. I saw that. I don't remember where it was at, but basically, they have already said Super Bowl upcoming, the entertainment, and it's going to be this year, it's purple and red. Whatever colors are made in Super Bowl logo, made in advance. So this is going to be interesting to see. Is it going to be? Yeah, Baltimore's purple, 49ers are red. We're going to find out, aren't we? If San Francisco and Baltimore win, everybody's going to begin to think, are sports rigged? Okay, we've had a lot of fun already. We better get to our messages. Bing. Oh, isn't this interesting? Oh, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up. Day 24. Get this. Day 24 is named Don't Believe Your Own Press. We were just kind of talking about the news. And now we're Don't Believe Your Own Press. Now it had happened as they were coming home when David was returning from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women had come out from all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tambourines, with joy, and with musical instruments. So the women sang as they danced and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Then Saul was very angry, and the saying displeased him. And he said, Where's Rusty? Rusty's up on his perch. Now that Rusty gets up at 4:50, gets me out of bed at 4:15 in the morning, he's already had time to spend with me. So he doesn't feel the need to come spend this time with me. But he's up in his little perch looking out the window. He may pop in. Rusty, you going to pop in during our broadcast or not? He's not even looking at me. Then Saul was very angry, and the saying displeased him. And he said, They have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed only thousands. Now, what more can he have but the kingdom? So Saul eyed David from that day forward. 1 Samuel 18, verses 6 through 9. Uh-oh. Garage door's opening. Rusty heard that. He's headed to the garage door. Scotty's appearing. I don't know. All right, anyway, continuing on. King Saul was insecure with his calling. It didn't help having the dancing women singing the songs they were singing, especially when they used to sing about his heroics. But oh, how things change. None of us stay on top forever. Everyone grows older. This audience knows well about that, right? Everyone grows older, a little slower, not quite as cute, possibly. There's always a new group of superstars to fill the void we leave. How do we keep from being jealous, even to the point of wanting to snuff out the competition? How can we keep a level head and a gracious heart? First of all, don't believe your own press, whether it's good or bad. Oh, it's good to check up on yourself and make sure you are doing the right thing. But seriously, no one can please everyone all the time. Secondly, rejoice when others are honored. Even if they did something better, quicker, or cheaper than you. Rejoice and be genuinely glad for them. These two things will help you guard your heart from envy, jealousy, bitterness, and murder. And that's a good thing. The prayer for today says, Yes, Lord, may my life be free of jealousy and a murderous spirit. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Oh, tomorrow. I looked over at tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a good one. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, because tomorrow it says, all I can do is trust. Call on him. And once you call on him, you have sought him out. Trust in him. All right, let's see. Memories. Where is our memories? Different shirts, different shirts, different shirt, different shirt. I did a good job today. Um, oh, how to dress, how to deal with stress in your life. Let's see if I can do this. This is how you deal with stress in your life. Whoops. Does anybody else need one of those? Who else needs one of those? Whoops. Now I'm caught in videos. I don't want to be caught in videos. Um, 6 years ago today, even when we feel as though we are not serving anyone, we are still serving someone. So our decision must not become whether we are serving, but rather who we are serving. I guess you get a bonus message 6 years ago today. It is easy for many to feel as though Jesus' death was the final chapter of a book that would be deemed a tragedy. That is, of course, if we feel that his death was the end. We must keep reading as the story continues on, as it isn't truly over, and he will return one day. No, this story isn't tragic at all, but rather a story in which triumph is victorious over tragedy. With that being said, we must prepare ourselves for our role so that we may be adequately ready to play our part in this ongoing story. So the story would not be deemed a tragedy, but rather you could say it was a love story. Um, that's interesting. I don't know why I wrote that. I must have went to a concert. Um, 8 years ago today, we must realize that in order to move forward in our lives, we must fully understand both who we are and how loved we are. For it is only by totally understanding that do we have any hope or chance to realize the rest that is waiting for us both here and what lies beyond. And 9 years ago today, we must realize that there is both good and bad in every person and also within every group of people. To focus on just the negative places you in a situation in which you find fault in everyone and in turn trust no one. What we must do is turn our attention to the goodness of people and realize that as we are human, each of us make mistakes. To continue to focus on just the negative side of people will only place your mind into negativity and isolation, which will only curtail your walk in life. So, with that in mind, we must continue to focus on the positive in life. For when you do that, you will experience the greatest growth and movement in your life. So sometimes what we must do is, if we feel like there is no growth, we feel no movement, we don't feel as though we're moving forward, we need to take a mind check, and more importantly, we need to take a heart check. Is our heart in the right place? Are our minds in the right place? Are we looking forward and we're looking at others with positivity? Or are we only looking for what's negative? Because the truth is, if you want to find negativity in anyone, you surely can find it. If you want to find something positive about anyone and everyone, you can do that as well. Which one are you going to choose to do? And it is by what you choose to focus on that your mind and ultimately your heart will go that same direction. All right. What time is it, Marie? If you got to go to your job interview and leave us, go ahead and leave us. But hopefully you can catch our story time first. Let's see. What's today again? Today's the 24th. The real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. William Brodie was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and died with a rope around his neck. No one could have imagined this esteemed member of the city council hanging from the gallows. His grandfathers were prominent Edinburgh attorneys, and his father was a renowned businessman. William inherited a fortune of £10,000 along with 4 grand houses. He was already a successful cabinet maker and locksmith. That's why he became the head of his guild and earned the title of the Deacon. When he walked down the Royal Mile in powdered wig and dark suit, Deacon Brodie was the picture of piety and prosperity. But the deacon was also spending nights at disreputable taverns where huge sums of money were lost at gaming tables. And Deacon Brodie was one of the biggest losers. What money he didn't lose gambling went to support 2 mistresses and 5 illegitimate children. So the deacon began to steal. His position as a locksmith allowed him to make wax impressions of keys and rob the houses of his clients. He moved from burglary to armed robbery when he fell in love with a gang of cutthroats. Before long, he was addicted to the thrill of thievery as he was to gambling. No one would have guessed that good deacon was responsible for the rash of robberies in Edinburgh. One Sunday morning, he used a key to enter a house, but the old lady who lived there was sitting in a chair, too sick to go to church. Deacon Brodie walked up to her, tipped his hat, and politely said, "Good morning, madame." Then he calmly walked into the other room and pilfered her jewels. When later asked why she didn't tell the authorities, she replied, "I didn't believe that such a respectable gentleman could possibly do what I saw him do." Deacon Brodie might have carried off his double life for years if he hadn't gotten greedy and attempted to rob the revenues of Scotland in the excise office. The robbery turned into a fiasco, and 2 thieves spilled the beans. The deacon was now a fugitive with a price on his head. He got as far as Amsterdam, where he was captured and brought back to Edinburgh. The sensational trial lasted for 21 hours. Brodie was found guilty and sentenced to the gallows. More than 40,000 people showed up on October 1st, 1788 to watch him hang. Everyone admired the new scaffolds, the the handiwork of Deacon Brodie, who had recently been commissioned to build a more effective gallows after a prior hanging had gone awry. So he essentially built the gallows that he died in or on, however you look at that. And isn't that, we've read about that in the Bible with Haman. And you know what? People who do not learn from God's word will one day live it out the hard way. He would be the first person to swing from his own handiwork. A century later, Robert Louis Stevenson used Deacon Brodie as a model for his infamous Dr. Jekyll. Dr. Jekyll. I knew where I was going. Dr. Jekyll. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I was putting him together and calling him Dr. Jekyll. The amazing story reminds us that none of us get away with our secret sins forever. Eventually, they catch up with us. Like Deacon Brodie, we often hang on the very gallows we construct ourselves. Maybe we should see what 40,000 people did on October 1st, 1788. Sins are like using a credit card. You enjoy now, but pay later. You may be sure that your sin will find you out. Numbers chapter 32, verse 23. Oh, Ryan's song tomorrow. Who else seen Ryan's song? That's going to be a sad story. That's tomorrow. Pray for America. All right, we continue on in Old Testament reading. We're still in the book of Genesis, chapter 48, verse 1. One day, not long after this, word came to Joseph, "Your father is failing rapidly." So Joseph went to visit his father, and he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Joseph arrived, Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to see you." So Jacob gathered his strength and sat up in his bed. Jacob said to Joseph, "God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me. He said to me, 'I will make you fruitful, and I will multiply your descendants. I will make you a multitude of nations, and I will give this land of Canaan to your descendants after you as an everlasting possession.' Now I am claiming as my own sons these two boys of yours, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born here in the land of Egypt before I arrived. They will be my sons, just as Reuben and Simeon are. But any children born to you in the future will be your own, and they will inherit the land within the territories of their brothers, Ephraim and Manasseh. Long ago, as I was returning from Paddan Aram, Rachel died in the land of Canaan. We were still on the way some distance from Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. So with great sorrow, I buried her there beside the road to Ephrath. Then Jacob looked over at the two boys. "Are these your sons?" he asked. "Yes," Joseph told him. They are the sons God has given me here in Egypt." And Jacob said, "Bring them closer to me so I can bless them." Jacob was half blind because of his age and could hardly see. So Joseph brought the two boys close to him, and Jacob kissed and embraced them. Then Jacob said to Joseph, "I never thought I would see your face again, but now God has let me see your children too." Joseph moved the boys who were at their grandfather's knees, and he bowed with his face to the ground. Then he positioned the boys in front of Jacob. With his right hand, he directed Ephraim towards Jacob's left hand, and with his left hand, he put Manasseh at Jacob's right hand. But Jacob crossed his arms as he reached out to lay his hands on the boy's head. He put his right hand on the head of Ephraim, though he was the younger boy, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, though he was the first boy, or firstborn, first boy. It was the first boy too, but he's firstborn. Then he blessed Joseph and said, "May the God before whom my grandfather Abraham and my father Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this very day, the angel who has redeemed me from all harm, may he bless these boys. May they preserve my name and the names of Abraham and Isaac, and may their descendants multiply greatly throughout the earth." But Joseph was upset when he saw that his father placed his right hand on Ephraim's head. So Joseph lifted it to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. "No, my father," he said, "this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused. "I know, my son, I know," he replied. "Manasseh will also become a great people, but his younger brother will become even greater, and his descendants will become a multitude of nations." So Jacob blessed the boys that day with this blessing: "The people of Israel will use your names when they give a blessing. They will say, 'May God make you as prosperous as Ephraim and Manasseh.'" In this way, Jacob put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Jacob said to Joseph, "Look, I am about to die, but God will be with you and will take you back to Canaan, the land of your ancestors. And beyond what I have given your brothers, I am giving you an extra portion of the land that I took from the Amorites with my sword and bow." Then Jacob called together all his sons and said, "Gather around me, and I will tell you what will happen to each of you in the days to come. Come and listen, you sons of Jacob. Listen to Israel, your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength, the child of my vigorous youth. You are first in rank and first in power, but you are as unruly as a flood, and you will be first no longer. For you went to bed with my wife, you defiled my marriage couch. Simeon and Levi are two of a kind. Their weapons are instruments of violence. May I never join in their meetings. May I never be a party to their plans. For in their anger they murdered men, and they crippled oxen just for a sport. A curse on their anger, for it is fierce, a curse on their wrath, for it is cruel. I will scatter them among the descendants of Jacob. I will disperse them throughout Israel. Judah, your brothers will praise you. You will grasp your enemies by the neck. All your relatives will bow before you. Judah, my son, is a young lion that has finished eating its prey. Like a lion, he crouches and lies down, like a lioness who dares to rouse him. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from his descendants, until the coming of the one to whom it belongs, the one whom all nations will honor. He ties his foal to a grapevine, the colt of his donkey to a choice vine. He washes his clothes in wine, his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth are whiter than milk. Zebulun will settle by the seashore and will be a harbor for ships. His borders will extend to Sidon. Issachar is a sturdy donkey, resting between two saddle packs. When he sees how good the countryside is and how pleasant the land, he will bend his shoulder to the load and submit himself to hard labor. Dan will govern his people like any other tribe in Israel. Dan will be a snake beside the road, a poisonous viper along the path that bites the horse's hoofs so its rider is thrown off. I trust in you for salvation, O Lord. Gad will be attacked by marauding bands, but he will attack them when they retreat. Asher will dine on rich foods and produce food fit for kings. Naphtali is a doe set free that bears beautiful fawns. Joseph is the foal of a wild donkey, the foal of a wild donkey at a spring, one of the wild donkeys on the ridge. Archers attacked him savagely. They shot him and harassed him. But his bow remained taut, and his arms were strengthened by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, by the shepherd, the rock of Israel. May the God of your father help you. May the Almighty bless you with the blessings of the heavens above and blessings of the watery depths below, and the blessings of the breasts and womb. May my fatherly blessings on you surpass the blessings of my ancestors, reaching to the heights of the eternal hills. May these blessings rest on the head of Joseph, who is a prince among his brothers. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, devouring his enemies in the morning and dividing his plunder in the evening. These are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said as he told his sons goodbye. He blessed each one with an appropriate message. Then Jacob instructed them, "Soon I will die and join my ancestors. Bury me with my father and grandfather in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite. This is the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre in Canaan that Abraham bought from Ephron the Hittite as a permanent burial site. There Abraham and his wife Sarah are buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah are buried, and there I buried Leah. It is the plot of land and the cave that my grandfather Abraham bought from the Hittites. When Jacob had finished this charge to his sons, he drew his feet into the bed, breathed his last, and joined his ancestors in death. New Testament reading, we continue on the book of Matthew, Matthew chapter 15, verse 29. Jesus returned to the Sea of Galilee and climbed a hill and sat down. A vast crowd brought to him people who were lame, blind, crippled, those who couldn't speak, and many others. They laid them before Jesus, and he healed them all. The crowd was amazed. Those who hadn't been able to speak were talking. The crippled were made well. The lame were walking, and the blind could see again. And they praised the God of Israel. Then Jesus called his disciples and told them, I feel sorry for these people. They have been here with me for 3 days, and they have nothing left to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry, or they will faint along the way. This was a test for the disciples. Because remember what we read before about another time in which Jesus was telling his disciples to feed the masses. And what did they say? So this is the second time. The disciples replied, where would we get enough food here in the wilderness for such a huge crowd? See how the disciples didn't learn? Didn't they say, wait a minute, we've encountered this one before. Jesus was able to perform a miracle and feed thousands of people. All we got to do is turn to him, and he can do it again. And so we can see it in their lives. They were the disciples of Jesus. Sometimes we need to pay attention to it in our own lives. Because as hard as we can be on the disciples, well, geez, didn't they learn anything? Sometimes we need to learn too. Because sometimes we are good at recognizing what God has done in our lives. But then we come up upon another hardship. And how often do we find ourselves crying out to him, God, where are you? Instead of just saying, God was with me last time, and he helped me through this. And if he helped me through this last time, he'll surely help me through this again. See how that works? It's so easy for us to say, well, geez, the disciples, didn't they remember what Jesus did last time in this when this came up? Again, we can so often see it in other people's lives. And sometimes it's harder for us to see it for ourselves. Turn the page. I should have turned the page while I was talking. Jesus asks, how much bread do you have? They replied, 7 loaves and a few small fish. So Jesus told all the people to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves and the fish, thanked God for them, and broke them into pieces. He gave them to the disciples, who distributed the food to the crowd. They all ate as much as they wanted. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 large baskets of leftover food. There were 4,000 men who were fed that day, in addition to all the women and children. Then Jesus sent the people home, and they got into a boat and crossed over to the region of Magdala. One day, the Pharisees and Sadducees came to test Jesus. demanding that he show them a miraculous sign from heaven to prove his authority. He replied, "You know the saying, red sky at night means fair weather tomorrow. Red sky in the morning means foul weather all day. You know how to intercept the weather signs in the sky, but you don't know how to interpret the signs of the times. Only an evil, adulterous generation would demand a miraculous sign, but the only sign I will give them is the sign of the prophet Jonah." Then Jesus left them and went away. Later, after they crossed to the other side of the lake, the disciples discovered they had forgotten to bring any bread. "Watch out," Jesus warned them. "Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." At this, they began to argue with each other because they hadn't brought any bread. They're worried about bread again. Hey, wait a minute. Didn't you just feed a bunch of people a second time? And now they're worried about shortage of bread again? Jesus knew what they were saying, so he said, "You have so little faith. Why are you arguing with each other about having no bread? Don't you understand even yet? Don't you remember the 5,000 I fed with 5 loaves and baskets of leftovers you picked up? Or the 4,000 I fed with 7 loaves and the large baskets of leftovers you picked up? Why can't you understand that I'm not talking about bread? So again, I say, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." Then at last they understood that he wasn't speaking about yeast and bread, but about the deceptive teachings of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Psalm 20, verses 1 through 9. In times of trouble, may the Lord answer your cry. May the name of the God of Jacob keep you safe from all harm. May he send you help from his sanctuary and strengthen you from Jerusalem. May he remember all your gifts and look favorably on your burnt offerings. May he grant your heart's desires and make all your plans succeed. May we shout for joy when we hear of your victory and raise a victory banner in the name of our God. May the Lord answer all your prayers. I'm going to read that one again. Hey, Marie, I just thought of you as I was reading this. I'm going to read it again. Think about this. And yes, I was actually thinking about you feeling nervous too. As I was reading this, I was thinking about that as well. That's why, even more importantly, knowing that you're going to this interview not alone, but call on his presence. He will give you the demeanor you need. He will take away some of those nerves. And if you seek him, he will guide you with the words to say. Yes, God can guide you with the words to say as well. So I'm going to read this section again because I thought of you, Marie, and I thought about you being nervous as well. May he grant your heart's desires and make all of your plans succeed. May we shout for joy when we hear of your victory. So that's the rest of us shouting for joy. And raise a victory banner in the name of our God. May the Lord answer all your prayers. May I know that the Lord rescues his anointed king. He will answer him from his holy heaven and rescue him by his great power. What I also feel like I need to say too is if it's meant to be, it will be. And if it's not meant to be, it won't be. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't come through, because you have to realize is that if you have God looking out for the best for you, sometimes you don't know the situation you're getting into. And sometimes maybe God spares us from entering into a bad situation. Sometimes, especially we're in need of a job, and all of a sudden a job opportunity is there. Maybe what we have to keep in mind is God sees all. And so he knows the whole situation. He not only knows how you feel, the nervous butterflies that are in you right now, but he also knows the other party. He knows the potential employer. And if it's a good employer and you're a good employee, it's a good match, then things can be very favorable for you. Sometimes we can go into it with the attitude we're going to be a great employee, but maybe for God, he's saying, this isn't the right employer for you. Maybe he's sparing you from complications down the road. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I guess what I'm trying to do is I am just trying to keep you of a right mindset, because sometimes we can get our hopes up and all of a sudden we go to, I can remember years ago, I can remember disappointment because, and this was before I came to faith. I was looking for a second job. And so I had an extensive retail background. And so of course, I won't go into, but I started with Woolworth back in 1988. I worked with Only Deals as a manager. I worked at Dollar Tree. I opened the first Dollar Tree in Western Iowa. I was a manager. I was not only a manager, but I was a training manager. But I was trying to get a second job working part-time at Dollar General. I thought I should obviously get this job. After all, I have a lot of retail training, a lot of management training. But guess what? I didn't get the job. How dare they not hire me? I am more than qualified. I wasn't going in there looking to be a manager. I was just looking to go in to work part-time. But again, God was probably looking out for me, even though, again, I wasn't walking with him. Even though I had, so for the potential employer, all of a sudden it's just like, well, God, this guy has all kinds of management experience. Am I going to feel threatened by this guy? Is he going to come in and start critiquing what I do here? And maybe that's why he didn't get the job. So at the time, I didn't recognize that. I just took that as, how dare they not hire me? They should have most definitely hired me. I was more than qualified. Some nations boast of their chariots and horses, but we boast in the name of the Lord our God. Those nations will fall down and collapse, but we will rise up and stand firm. Give victory to our King, O Lord. Answer our cry for help. Proverbs 4, verses 20 through 27. My child, pay attention to what I say. Listen carefully to my words. Don't lose sight of them. Let them penetrate deep into your heart, for they bring life to those who find them and healing to their whole body. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Avoid all perverse talk. Stay away from corrupt speech. Look straight ahead. Oh, we talk about this a lot. Look straight ahead, forward, and fix your eyes on what lies before you. Mark out a straight path for your feet. Stay on the safe path. Don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil. And that is the end of our message for today. Yeah, Marie, I hope you understand this, that I'm not trying to discourage you. But, sometimes we can get caught up and feel like if we just pray for it, and then we as fellow believers come together in prayer for you, that all of a sudden, if it doesn't happen, that somehow you've let yourself down. You've done something wrong. Or perhaps we didn't do our job and pray for you effectively enough. Well, we have to realize that in this world, we can be doing all the right things, but not everything is decided by us. So all we can do is go into it with a great attitude, and that's where I said in the beginning, go into it with Him in your presence. Allow Him to go to that interview with you, knowing you're not alone. And with Him there, He's going to be able to guide you, lead you, protect you. And maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say, I see that you're going to get the job, or I see you're not going to get the job. All I am saying is, and I know this is truth, is that if you call on Him to be in your presence today, He will be in your presence today, and He will do what's best for you. And sometimes what's best for you may be what you feel is not right for you at the moment. It's sometimes another way to look at this. Sometimes we have delays in our life. We need to get out of the house and we need to get in the car and go to this destination. And all of a sudden, somehow there's delays that come up. And it's just like, I got to get going. I was supposed to have already been on my way. And then all of a sudden, we feel like we've got to all of a sudden be rushed. What we have to understand is maybe sometimes obstacles are put in our way to keep us out of harm. I think about a story my sister told me years ago in which, a path that she normally drove out in the country, all of a sudden, one day she was diverted from the plan. She was going a different direction. She really wasn't sure why. It's kind of like, for some reason, I didn't take the route I always took. I was diverted. I was sent a different direction to go a different direction. And the person that was right behind her went the path that she normally took. And what ended up happening is, by her going that different direction, she was avoided from a really bad accident. The car that was behind her on the path before she turned off ended up being the car that got into that accident? I don't know. And so then you can be left to wonder, well, why didn't that person get the memo, get the message? We don't know. Not really sure. Were they walking in faith? I don't know. I don't know all the details. I don't know the details of everyone's life. All I know is that if you call on him, he will be there to guide you. It's all about a personal relationship. You can't live through my relationship and I can't live through your relationship. We can help each other and guide each other along the way, but ultimately each one of us has to have that personal relationship with God, has to be calling on him each day, each moment of each day. Whether, like I said, going to a job interview or just leaving the house to go to work or go on vacation or whatever we may do. And maybe we're not even leaving the house today. I got to leave the house today. But even if we don't leave the house that day, knowing that if we call on him, we are not alone. The enemy may tell us we're alone, may try to creep in and get into our minds and put all these negative thoughts in our minds. But if we call on him, whether, like I said, we're leaving the house or not leaving the house, he will be there and he will keep us safe and protected. He will guide us. He will lead us. He doesn't want to see harm to those kids that are calling on him. He only wants the very best for us. So I hope that all made sense. That sometimes, according to this world, it may seem as though things didn't go the way we wanted them to. But if we've called on God, they have turned out the way they were supposed to. And perhaps he has a different plan. And we just have to keep ourselves in faith and trust in him that his plan is indeed the best plan. Let's go ahead and wrap up today, this Wednesday, January 24th, 2024, with a prayer. Lord, Jacob's sons knew what their futures held. It was spelled out for them. I'm sorry. I'll start the prayer over. I, 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 I should have maybe read the prayer. It's like I almost did this in reverse because what I just said, I could have said after the prayer. And so instead, I've given you the message of what I should have said after the prayer, before the prayer, and then we'll be able to quickly wrap up afterward. You'll get what I mean when we go back to the prayer again. I'm going to start over. Lord, Jacob's sons knew what their futures held. It was spelled out for them. We're less certain. Help us place our confidence in you, not just in our earthly leaders. Give us hearts tuned to your truth, not just to the day's headlines. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Do you see what I mean? I gave my after talk out of order. I could have just read this prayer and then said what I said before right after I read that prayer. So there's not anything else to say because I've already said it. Good luck today, Marie. And just know that you encourage him to go with you. He is going to give you the very best, whether it be in this opportunity today, or maybe he's going to say, This is going to give you good practice for the job I have for you. Maybe today is the day. And because sometimes he says yes, sometimes he says no, and sometimes he says right now, not right now. Which one it is, I don't know. I'm not going to be here. I'm not a person that's going to claim to know. But you know what? You encourage him to go on that interview with you, and he will be there. And you know what? It's all going to turn out in the end. How? I don't know. But enjoy the ride. Take care. God bless. Have a wonderful day. And God willing, we'll be back with you again come tomorrow morning. Yes, we'll be looking forward to it, Marie. Please let us know. Please share your story tomorrow. Until then, take care.